In this video, we're talking about how to win a whistleblowing employment claim and how much you should get. My name is Alex Monaco, solicitor and owner of Monaco Solicitors. The topics that we're going to cover in this video are a brief overview of what is whistleblowing, negotiating whistleblowing compensation out of court, and then winning an employment tribunal and how much you should get for whistleblowing compensation in an employment tribunal. So what is whistleblowing? Well, blowing the whistle on bad practice in the employer is one thing, but it's something else if your employer then goes on to victimize you as a result of blowing the whistle. So you can't claim in the employment tribunal, or you can't negotiate a settlement just because you blew the whistle on your employer. It's only if they then victimize you afterwards. And the language used in the English employment law is subjecting you to detriments. So a detriment is a very wide term. It could be anything from bullying you to demoting you, giving you less good work, or moving your desk into the basement, for example. But a detriment could be pretty much anything. So were you subjected to a detriment for blowing the whistle? What is blowing the whistle? Well, you needed to report this malpractice to someone at work, pretty much, a manager, rather than just telling a colleague, but reporting it could be to the health and safety manager, or your line manager, or to HR, ideally someone fairly senior within the company or organization. So, and what is the unlawful? What's the definition of unlawful conduct by the employer? It's a pretty wide definition. It can be anything from criminal acts to breaching contracts, or many different types of unlawful conduct that can constitute whistleblowing. Have another look at our website for a bit more detail on the technicalities there. So, negotiating whistleblowing claim out of court for a settlement and how much you should get for that. There's a couple of approaches you can take. If you're going to try and settle a whistleblowing case out of court, you could write a letter setting out all of the things that took place, the unlawful activities that took place, and how you reported them, and how you were subjected to detriments. You might have to do that because it's often quite a complex type of claim with all these moving parts. But another approach is just picking up the phone and speaking to HR or to management, or perhaps in a meeting, off the record. It might be, if you do have lawyers, they could pick up the phone for you, which might be a bit easier for you. The reason why that could work even better is because then your company can, rather than do an expensive investigation where they have to appoint managers to investigate everything and they spend money on that, they can pay you that money instead. And hopefully they would still change their behavior as well. So you'll hopefully end up fixing the problem for other people too. Whereas if you go for trying to put everything in writing, they may well escalate that to their lawyers, and then they might dig in because lawyers like to argue and they like to win cases. So picking up the phone could work, and make sure whatever you do that you don't accidentally make threats. So for example, if you don't pay me X, Y, and Z, I will go to the media or go to the regulator, because that can be seen as an improper course of conduct, and it could almost be seen as blackmail. So it's a fine line to tread, and often what you'll need to do is hint subtly that these things may happen. For example, well, if I go to court, these things will get into the public domain, and that won't look good for the company. That's different from saying, if you don't pay me, I will send these things to the media. It's subtle difference, but just make sure you're on the right side of that subtle difference. So, whistleblowing employment tribunal claims and how much you should get for compensation for whistleblowing in employment tribunals. Well, if you do go to an employment tribunal because you couldn't negotiate an out-of-court settlement, a tribunal will look at it in the same way that they look at unfair dismissal compensation claims, and you can check out our video on that. Effectively, it will be a basic award, which will be a week's salary per year worked, and a week's salary capped currently at a maximum of around £500 per week. Also then a compensatory award for how many months you were out of work. So if you were out of work for 3 or 4 months or 6 months, that's how much you should be awarded for that. then that will be uncapped. So unlike unfair dismissal, which is the compensatory award is capped at around 93,000, for whistleblowing it will be uncapped. There's also an amount for injury to feelings. So the detriments you've suffered, the victimization, the bullying you've suffered because you reported whistleblowing, you will get an amount for injury to feelings there, and that's worked out in a similar way to discrimination compensation. So you can check out our video on discrimination for more on that. If you'd like to know more about whistleblowing, have a look at our website, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date too. Thanks very much.